On January 18, 2026, Sunday night, Iran, at around 9:30 p.m., Iranian state television is broadcasting as usual. News, music, everyday people. Then the routine is interrupted. For a brief moment, an unauthorized message appears on screen. The broadcast is cut, and just as quickly, it is gone. Clips begin to circulate online. Screens are recorded. Within hours, the footage spreads beyond Iran's borders. By the next day, tensions rise. Security forces increase their presence. Internet access becomes unstable. Officials deny significance. But across the country and across the Iranian diaspora, the reaction is immediate, because this has happened before. Iran has lived through moments like this for more than half a century. Moments where a single image, a single voice, or a single act of defiance triggered something larger, from revolutions to wars, from student protests to economic uprisings, from silence to sudden eruption. Each time, the surface event looked different, but the roots were the same: power, control, and a society caught between the two. To understand why a brief disruption on television can still matter, why unrest continues to return in waves, and why Iran's struggles never fully disappear, we have to go back. Back before the protests, back before the Islamic Republic, back to the turning point that reshaped the country and set Iran on the path it still walks today. In 1941, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi became the ruler of Iran. By the 1960s and 70s, he ruled with near absolute authority. The Shah believed Iran's future depended on rapid modernization. He wanted to turn the country into a regional superpower, economically strong, militarily advanced, and culturally modern. Oil money funded massive projects. Highways, factories, universities, and modern cities expanded. To outsiders, Iran appeared stable, a key ally of the West, a nation moving forward. But progress came with a cost. In the early 1960s, the Shah launched a series of reforms known as the White Revolution. Land redistribution, education programs, women's voting rights, industrial growth. On paper, it looked transformative. But in practice, many Iranians felt excluded. Land reforms disrupted traditional communities. Farmers lost livelihoods. Wealth became concentrated among elites connected to the monarchy. And while the country modernized quickly, Political participation did not. Iran under the Shah was not a democracy. Political parties were restricted. Independent media was suppressed. Criticism of the monarchy was dangerous. The Shah's intelligence agency, SAVAK, became a symbol of fear. It monitored conversations, tracked dissidents, imprisoned and interrogated opponents. People learned to stay silent, even in private. Public order remained intact, but resentment quietly spread. Modernization didn't just change infrastructure, it changed identity. Traditional religious influence was pushed aside. Western dress, values, and lifestyles were promoted. For many Iranians, this felt imposed, not chosen. Clerics, merchants, students, and workers began to see modernization as something forced upon them by a distant ruler disconnected from ordinary life. The divide between the state and society widened. By the 1970s, opposition came from many directions. Students demanded freedom of speech. Workers demanded fair wages. Religious leaders demanded respect for tradition. These groups disagreed on ideology, but they shared anger toward the Shah. What they lacked was unity. That unity would come from religion. While political organizations were dismantled, mosques remained. They became places where people could gather, listen, and organize. From exile, one cleric's voice grew louder. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. His speeches were recorded and distributed secretly, passed from hand to hand, played in homes and mosques. He framed the Shah not just as a political leader, but as a moral failure. This message resonated. By 1978, protests became unavoidable. Demonstrations spread across cities. Security forces responded with force. Deaths fueled larger protests. A cycle formed. Each crackdown intensified resistance. Each funeral became a rally. Strikes shut down industries. Oil production slowed. The economy faltered. The state began to lose control. In January 1979, after months of unrest and international pressure, the Shah left Iran. Officially, it was temporary. In reality, it was the end. Millions celebrated in the streets. Others watched cautiously, unsure of what would follow. The monarchy had fallen, but the struggle over Iran's future was just beginning. The Shah was gone, but revolutions don't end with the fall of a ruler. They end when new power takes shape. And in Iran, that transformation would change everything. The revolution did not bring freedom. It brought permanence. When the Shah fell, power did not return to the people. It moved upward and stayed there. A new system replaced the monarchy, the Islamic Republic. At its peak stood a position above all others, supreme leader. After 1979, Iran did not simply change governments. It changed the source of authority. Religion was no longer separate from power. It was power. When Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini died in 1989, Iran faced a dangerous moment. The revolution needed continuity. The man chosen was Ali Hosseini Khamenei. At the time, he was not the most powerful cleric. But power, once granted, began to accumulate. Over the years, authority concentrated around him. The courts, the media, the military, especially one force, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. What began as a protector of the revolution became the backbone of the state. Before this consolidation was complete, Iran had already been shaped by war. In 1980, Iraq invaded. The Iran-Iraq War consumed the country for 8 years. Cities were flattened. Young men were sent to the front. Loss became routine. In 1982, Iranian forces retook Khorramshahr. Inside Iran, it became legend. The Epic of Khorramshahr, a victory paid for in blood. When the war ended, Iran was alive but broken. Instead of opening, the state hardened. Religion moved from belief into law. Daily life became regulated. Dissent became criminal. Women were placed at the center of enforcement. What was once choice became obligation. mandatory dress codes, very harsh rules on behavior. The state watched people at all times. A strand of hair, the length of a coat, the way a woman walked in public. Everything mattered. Violations carried consequences. Financial penalties, detention, public humiliation. The state called it morality. Critics called it control. Beyond its borders, Iran pursued strength. Long-range rockets, regional influence, proxy wars stretching from Lebanon to Yemen. And in the background, a nuclear program. Iran called it peaceful. The world did not believe it. Sanctions followed. Trade collapsed. The currency fell. Inflation erased savings. For ordinary Iranians, survival became harder every year. At the same time, Israel and the United States worked to slow Iran's progress. Through cyber attacks, sabotage, and covert operations, facilities were damaged. Scientists were killed. But the program endured. Inside the country, pressure built. Students protested. Workers protested. Women protested. Each time, the response was familiar. Force, arrests, silence. Some protests ended with deaths. The state blamed outsiders. The people blamed the system. Under Khamenei, power remained intact. Not flexible, not responsive, but resilient, because it was designed to survive unrest. But unrest never disappeared. It returned in cycles, and each return left deeper fractures, which raises the question Iran now faces again. How long can control outpace resistance? And what happens when fear stops working? This was not a sudden collapse. It was a long erosion, years of pressure, years of control, years of punishment disguised as order. Iran did not change overnight. It resisted change until resistance itself became impossible to contain. For decades, fear worked. Rules governed bodies, beliefs governed behavior, and women paid the highest price. Dress codes were not guidelines. They were instruments. Fabric measured obedience. Hair became evidence. Punishment became routine. Morality patrols watched. Streets judged. And silence was enforced. But silence has a breaking point. Protests did not arrive once. They returned. Again and again. Students, workers, mothers, daughters. Each wave met with force. Bullets, prisons, executions. Public hangings were meant to end resistance. They did not. They fed it. Funerals turned into marches. Marches turned into clashes. Clashes turned into something larger. Defiance without permission. Women stood at the front, not as symbols, but as leaders. They burned headscarves. They shouted names of the dead. They refused to step back. The streets answered. Barricades, fire, riot police, blood on pavement. The government spoke of stability. The people spoke of survival. By 2026, Iran was no longer quiet. Protests were louder. Crackdowns were harsher. Executions increased. Fear lost its grip. This was not a revolution. Not yet. It was something more dangerous. A population no longer afraid of consequences. And that is where the story ends. Not with victory, not with collapse, but with a country suspended between control and consent, and a people who decided that silence was no longer an option. History will decide what comes next. But one truth remains. Once fear breaks, it never fully returns.